The loud clatter of books falling into the return slot abruptly breaks the grip of silence over the school library. It's become a habit for me to come to the library at least once a week. Not only does the reading itself keep me busy, but discussing books with Hanako and Lily also does. Obviously startled, Yuko suddenly twists towards the direction of the noise. I'd have thought her used to people dropping books by now since she does work here. Hello, Sal, back again? Takes me a moment to respond, my mind still distracted by the familiar melody of Lily's humming that's hardly left my ears in the several days it's been since I fell asleep to it. Just returning some books. She casts her eyes downward, presumably to the bin that the books dropped into. You're a very heavy reader, aren't you? It's become quite a bit of a routine, passes the time at least. I wish I had free time. From small talk to depression in less than 5 seconds, I think that's a new record for her. She seems a bit put down in general, even compared to normal. Considering she has to work 2 jobs and just to support herself, I could see how that would take a toll on her lifestyle. Come to think of it, the pay of her job here can't be all that bad. The idea of staff in such a prestigious private school going hungry strikes me as counterintuitive. Working 2 jobs must take a lot of time. I'd probably never even manage it. You're lucky being a student. Do you think you'll be able to go to university? If she's asking, then I guess that's an unexpected result of having this kind of education. Private schools like this don't exactly come cheap. I guess I have the money, I think. I've got plans which require going to one, and my grades are good enough. It's a matter of how I'll pay for it to do so. How I'll pay to do it. University costs so much, I'm going to have to work 2 jobs to afford to enter it. Paying for daily expenses too makes it a lot harder. If you're reading this much though, that means you're doing well in school, right? Interesting logical jump. Not an altogether wrong one though. I suppose so. I didn't find any of the exams very hard aside from maybe 1 or 2. Do you mind if I ask what studies you're pursuing in university? Yuko appears to genuinely brighten at the question. It's anthropology, to be specific. Seesaw effect. I'm specializing in the history of cultural era and Athenian civilization and democracy. She seems to know her stuff. Such enthusiasm is to be admired, and it's nice to see her genuinely excited about something. I guess even someone like Yuko can be happy if she has a visible road ahead of her. That's good. Apologizing profusely and quickly shuffling into the library as I fumble for the cover of my phone, I glance at the screen. Weird. It's a mobile phone number. It's a mobile number I don't recognize. Considering I can count the number of people in my number with my number in one hand, I briefly wonder whether it's some telemarketer. Hello, Hisao Nakai speaking. Guess who? Akira! Oh, it's Misha. Ah, you actually think I said, oh, it is Akira. Not at all, Akira. I don't remember giving you my number though, so I thought I'd mess with you. Oh. I got Lily to give it to me, not hard. She positively beams with pride at that statement. She's trying to get me caught up in her pace, I know it. I suppose I shouldn't have been surprised that the two would share my number though, given how close they are. What's up? You free now? Can you meet me at the park in town? I want to talk to you about some stuff. Is that an invitation to a date? Of course not. She sounds suddenly crestfallen. Her previous teasing nature is having instantaneously left. It seems strange for her. When do you want to meet? Kind of nowish? Dead silence suddenly coming from the phone announces the fact that she has unceremoniously hung up. For a long time, I just stand there staring at the call-ended message on the screen while replaying the conversation in my head. What the hell, Akira? There I glance up and down the street, I cross the road and step into the park. I've learned to pace myself on such walks, mostly because of Lily's slower speed during our 4 days into town means I have to consciously slow myself down. That aside, I hope Akira didn't expect me to be immediately prompt. It only takes a couple of seconds to spot her, waiting on a bench with a can of beer in her hand. The look she gives as I walk up lacks any hint of acknowledgement or greeting. With that look, I needn't have come, you know. I knew you would. You're that kind of person, after all. I lower my brow at her remark as she disposes of the can. Empty by the time I arrived, with metallic clatter rings out. Akira takes a second on the old wooden bench, and I follow her lead. She takes another can of beer from beside her and opens it before speaking. Taking a large gulp, she really does like that stuff. I suppose I don't need to ask what this is about, or whether who it's about. I heard from Lily that you asked about our family. They share more than phone numbers, that's for sure. I'd probably be very worried right now if it weren't for the total lack of malice in her voice. Rather, her tone sounds almost wistful. Idle curiosity, mostly. I have to admit, I never guessed you two were half Scottish. She gives a wry chuckle of amusement. I've heard that before, trust me. The small smile fades from her face, her eyes looking ahead distantly. Aside from the occasional elderly couple talking as they slowly walk, the meandering paths and the odd aging car is pleasantly quiet. She didn't tell you anything, though, did she? Panzer, that does not sound pleasant at all. It was very brief. Your parents live in Scotland. She hasn't met them since she was 12. She wants to meet them again. I'm always surprised how devoted she is to our parents. It's all the good they did. Well, with all the good they did us. The way she says it sounds almost derisive. She gives a small sigh as if to quickly brush the feelings away. Why do you think they left, Sal? Why do I think they left? From what Lily told me, it's because of work. I guess a pretty decently paying job was involved as well, given the way your parents seem to live. So Lily went to a private school, and that's why she carries herself with the airs and grace of the upper class. Yeah, since the business in Inverness boomed, our father decided to move directly to the same city as its headquarters. That's just the conclusion I thought you'd come to, though. You're too good-natured. I'm sitting here bitching to you about it. What do you think? Yamaku Academy. I've always felt this place was kind of creepy, like it was an isolated hideaway for those proper society don't want to see or hear. They probably just rue the fact that Lily wasn't old enough to be shoved here by the time they left. A long silence followed her abrupt yet harsh criticism of her own parents and Yamaku. Lily's blindness is hardly something that could be simply ignored for such a high-class family attempting to keep up appearances, much less so than a lucrative offer in the table. Eventually, Akira gives a divisive snort, her feelings coming to a head. Moving to secure our financial future with this new job posting, even at the time I hardly believed it. Not wanting to simply be an avenue for her venting, I gently try to steer the discussion. So you stayed in Japan with Lily then? Either I stayed with her or she went to live with an ailing grandmother and grandfather. Well, she's an Ace family if you're cousins. Our fathers hate each other. I'd have been more than happy to tell her to go screw themselves and live with them anyways, but Lily wouldn't wanted that. I also had an offer for a job by then, so we did our best to keep our parents' house in proper shape and tried to continue our lives as if they'd never left. So you just lived by yourself. Basically, Lily had school and I had my job, so we weren't exactly languishing. With her schooling, her study, and having to do chores while I worked, though, I can't help feeling like I failed her. In the end, I tried to be there for her and screwed it up. Expecting a 19-year-old to be a mother for a blind child, it's ridiculous. So Lily and Akira lived alone after their parents moved, with Lily likely taking care of herself. I guess that explains her apparent independence compared to Minnie and Yamaku. I may have lived alone much of my time since my parents both worked, but that's just something else entirely. Sorry for making you listen to my moaning. I don't mind at all. Do you mind if I ask why you're telling me this? You always were curious. Context, I suppose. Life isn't a fairy tale, Sal. Some people have to learn that the hard way. She takes a long drink from her can in her hand, her face becoming more depressed and distant. I broke with my boyfriend a few days ago. After I leave, we're not going to be able to see each other again. That's how life is. You can't just set up your life, expect it to stay that way forever. Sometimes stuff happens that you have to roll with, even if it means hurting yourself or others. Takes a long breath before looking up the bright orange sky. If I smoked, I could take a nice long drag right now and look kind of cool. I want to respond to help her in whatever way I can, but I feel utterly useless. This kind of situation is one I've never been in, and I simply don't have the experience to say anything meaningful to comfort her. Akira looks over and evidently picks up on this, much to my embarrassment. I must look pretty pathetic right now, whining about this to someone I barely know. Hardly, and I'm pretty much an expert on looking pathetic. She gives a chuckle, and acts feeling like a personal victory to me. You're a good kid, Sal. When I said I approved of you being with my sister, I wasn't joking or being nice. She picks herself up off the seat with a grunt, one that seems ill-fitting given her age, and throws the now empty can into the bin after one last swig. It's just unfortunate it doesn't really count for much in this world. What's up, Farm? When I said I was leaving for Scotland, I was doing it because a good position opened up in our company's headquarters. When our folks told me that when we were at their place, they also gave Lily a summons to rejoin them in Inverness. No way. Her evasiveness when asked about her future, that awkwardness that had steadily grown between us, that uncharacteristic outburst of anger, all of them suddenly fit into place. The same family she reminisced about after Hanako's birthday party. The same family that left her and Akira themselves after taking flight to greener pastures. Now I feel stupid for never cornering Lily in what's been bugging her. I never even considered if something had happened during her trip with her family's home at Iverness. And now, a sense of unease grows in my chest. If her family had summoned her to join them in Scotland, all the way on the other side of the earth, has she accepted? Lily hasn't told me whether she plans to accept. It seems she hasn't told you either. That's why I called you down here to talk. I sit back, my feelings of worry and frustration no doubt written all over my face. Lily's a strong person, but she's not infallible. I guess it's my job to worry about her being the older sister, but I think that you deserve to know. I understand. You okay? You sound depressed. Just thinking. That's good. Thinking's good. Being rash won't get you anywhere. She looks at her watch, barely moving her wrist. I've got to go. Will you be okay? It's fine, don't worry. I'll have to talk to Lily about it and get everything sorted out. She gives a smile, but it doesn't seem all that genuine or sincere. Really, both of us are dancing around the fact that Lily's on the precipice of the biggest decision of her life and is trying to make take the entire burden on herself. Part of that burden is a matter of our relationship. By the time I look up, Akira's already walking off with her hand held up. For the first time in a long time, I finally have an answer to something. Perhaps not even that, but at least now I have the right question to ask. Will you leave or stay? Ah, yeah, some meat to the Lily story. Sorry. Hurry, Lily. I'm moving as fast as I can. I can barely make out Lily's voice over the deafening pouring of the rain. Even though I dislike pulling her around, the situation calls for it. I turn forward, my free hand over my head in a futile attempt to keep at least my hair dry. My vision seems to be in grayscale. This really is rotten weather for summer and the last kind of climate I want for a date. Welcome home. Boop. A pity. I even checked the weather forecast before. You okay? Did you hurt yourself? Huh? Yeah. Looking to Lily, her shoulders are by now completely drenched, with her right hand holding tightly to mine and her left gripping her retracted cane. This horrid downpour came on just as we were between our destination and Yamaku, so we decided to try rushing the rest of the distance rather than doubling back. Entirely unused to running this fast, Lily using all her concentration just to avoid tripping over. Hisao, do you know where we're going? Even she's reduced to shouting to try and be heard over the combined noise of the wind and the rain. The rest of my voice is completely drowned out by an even heavier burst of rain. The what? The Shanghai. How far is it? Shouldn't be far now. Doesn't take long before I call out to her once again. It's just up ahead. I quickly pull up to stop just in front of the familiar exterior, the lantern outside still giving off its reliable glow, and wait for Lily to catch her breath before going in. Ladies first. The tiny bell inside rings out when I hold the door open for her, a smile and a polite nod being my reward before entering myself. I step in behind her and wipe my feet. Only a quick glance is necessary to notice a distinct lack of activity. The Shanghai doesn't seem to get much in the way of patronage, and today's no different. Only a couple of tables are occupied. Summoned by the bell's ringing, the most expected person comes and greets us. Welcome to the Shanghai. Yuko looks chipper today. Trying to predict her mood is pretty hard, but it's a nice change to the norm. Hello, Yuko. Hey. Good afternoon, you two. She takes a deep bow, somewhat taken aback as she rights herself and gets a better look at us. What happened to you? You both look... It's raining. Oh, dear. We're inside now, at least. I think that's the most important thing. It's nice and cozy. We're lucky to be working inside today. It has been nice and quiet. I like days like these. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. Is there anything you like? French vanilla, please. I'll have the same. Coming right up. She quickly skitters off with a determined look on her face, trying very hard not to forget our orders. If nothing else, she's at least dedicated to her jobs. I lead Lily to an empty seat before the two of us sit down. As usual, there's a large difference between my exhausted flopping down into my seat and Lily's delicate sliding into hers, her cane set beside her. For a while, I sit idly by, watching the rain falling outside. The occasional person runs down the street trying to stay as dry as possible, hands often tightly gripping a rain-soaked umbrella. Lily sits just as carefully as I, her eyes closed as she intently listens to all that's happening. It's a comfortable, relaxing silence that exists between us, just the type that we'd so often shared together in past months. Really, at least. I can't help replaying the words her sister in her mind, at times contrasting them to both our time spent together since I entered Yamaku and to the way we've been since we started dating. No matter how much I try, I can't work Lily out. It's as if the harder I try to second guess her emotions and her potential decision, the more difficult it becomes to reach a clear conclusion. It makes me doubt whether I'd ever really understood her. In the end, I'm going to have to ask, even though I very much want to avoid doing so. You seem quiet today, Hisao. Really? You seem so enthusiastic after taking me out, about taking me out on a date. I'd assumed you had something specific you wanted to do. Just want to spend some time with you. Before you left forever! It's one thing. A little grin finds its way into Lily's face, her knowing full well she's bested me. It makes what I want to say a little more awkward. Akira and I were talking. Oh? What's with that tone? You two seem to get on well, don't you? Well, I do think she's a pretty cool person to talk with. It'd be nice if any of the teachers were anything like her. Cool. For a moment I try to place her tone of voice, my mouth curling into a smirk as I realize it. You're not jealous, are you? I'm not jealous. After her teasing me over such a thing on our first date, I don't feel too bad having a little laugh at her expense this time around. As we settle down, though, it's only a minor distraction for the real point of why I brought Lily here. It's mostly just everyday stuff. That said, there was something Akira mentioned I wanted to talk to you about. When you went to see your family in Iverness a while back, she said, Akira told you about my family's summons, hasn't she? Seconds ticked by while I tried to read Lily's face, an odd mixture of feelings written on it. She seems annoyed and somewhat confused. Here. Yugo tentatively slides our drinks on the table, her presence oddly small. As she walks back to the counter after a quick, polite nod, I realize the air between me and Lily is thick and our expressions are both somewhat pensive. Even though she says I should lead my own life, she still interferes at the worst times. I don't think you should blame Akira here. She's just looking out for you. It's not like I can't understand her concern over this. Lily's irritation gives way to an awkward, largely unsuccessful attempt to mask her feelings. She really doesn't deal with being cornered on personal topics. I know, but I just want some more time. I knew you'd figure it out eventually, but you were intentionally hiding this from me? For how long were you planning on doing so? As I said, I simply wanted to think about it. I wanted to be sure of my decision before telling you. What'd you decide? I know that I wanted her to say, but what an awful feeling refuses to leave my guilt. My family does dearly want me to return to them, and Akira will be going as well. I could still teach as a career, whether it be here or there. So you're going. How long have you known? I already know you were asked when you first went to Scotland about a month ago. Some time. My frustration very nearly boils over. The fact that she's done this affects me more than it should. For her to not only be leaving me out, but to have been actively hiding her own plans from me, and after seeming for so long to be the one solid pair of support and reliability I could depend on. It feels as if that foundation underneath me is suddenly shifting dramatically, much faster than I can adapt to. Perhaps this isn't so much frustration as sheer unease. Lily. I'm sorry, I just want to think this through completely. I wasn't trying to take advantage of you, please. I know, this is just really sudden. I guess this means that once you go, we'll be breaking up? For one of the first few times I've seen since I met her, she seems genuinely lost for words. She doesn't look surprised, no doubt because the fact has dawned on her since once she became sure of her decision. But rather, she appears genuinely unsure of how to deal with the situation now that it's in front of her. We could try pursuing a long-distance relationship. They're getting more and more common these days, after all. Even as she says it, the tone of her voice gives away she doesn't truly believe what she's saying. Oh shit, do we get a bad ending? Lily's far too old-fashioned to be able to cope with a relationship without any kind of physical presence, and even I am to an extent. All we would ever do to each other would be a voice on the other side of the world. In the end, trying to rationalize everything is futile. Any attempt to try to connect what's happening with the future and past just seems to get more difficult the more I concentrate. These quiet moments when we just walked side by side, the precious time we spent with Hanako and Akira, the casual chatter we had during lunchtimes, the times we made love, the confessions of our feelings to each other. All pointless, all just fleeting moments in our young lives. What's up, Zaka? We're just two children pretending to be adults, aren't we? A long, long silence hangs in the air between us. The noise of the other patrons drinking and talking only makes the situation feel more strange and disconnected. Lily's face remains low, her dejected expression clouding it. Sorry, Hisao. A simple apology and no more. She's left entirely without any further response or comment. With a long sigh, I gather what's left of my thoughts and ask the final question I have for her. When will we be going? I'm leaving with Akira, so it'll be less than a week. Beginning of summer holidays? Just a little afterwards, yes. Her tone is unusually slow and steady, her apologetic and oppressed mood all the more written on her face as she tries to hide it in her voice. In the end, I can't even keep my promise of going to Tanabata with her before she leaves. I look down, seeing my face reflected in by now lukewarm cup of neglected tea sitting in front of me. I really thought I'd left this kind of expression behind. For a while, I just stared down into the still surface, trying to sort through my emotions to get at what course of action I should take, whether it be right now or in the future. But just as before, the effort is wasted. I glance up to see Lily gently sipping her cool tea without complaint, her face drawn and shoulders slumped. She looks to be deep in thought, too, a strangely cold atmosphere coming between us as we isolate ourselves to mull things over. Even as Lily's cup empties, mine remains untouched. It's a long time before I notice the rain dying down outside and a few other patrons of the Shanghai having left. The chill of the rapidly darkening evening permeates the dormitory hallways. While trudging down the corridor of my room, I see an unwelcome movement from up ahead. Ah, it's Kenji. I don't really want to get into it. It's late. If you want to talk, you know I'm here. I look at him for a moment before surrendering my stern front and awkwardly scratching the back of my neck. Thanks, Kenji. It's cool. It's what friends are for, right? Yeah, Kenji. I open my door to my own dorm room and close it behind me as he quickly waves me off. The solid thud the door makes against the door frame sounds out a final call for the life I'd led since coming to Yamaku. I just stand in my darkened room, fruitlessly attempting to work out what I should do from this point onwards. What should I do? Oh no! As the class ends, I simply rest my hand on my head and stare out the window to pass the time. It's been a few days since Lily told me her plans. I hadn't been to our dormitory lunchtime haunt since then, not that there would be much point. Hanako's been busy with the newspaper club she's newly joined, and has even begun talking in class with Naomi every now and then. Even Lily, aside from the fact that a meeting between us would have been awkward in any case, has been run off her feet with class representative duties as the summer holidays approaches. And now, they're just about here. With the end of today's bell, the summer holidays have begun. I suppose that all I'll end up doing will be visiting my parents for the duration and lazing about my new home, now that my previous plans are entirely askew. Meanwhile, Akira and Lily will be en route to Scotland to live out the rest of their lives there. No matter how hard I try to rationalize the idea that once the summer holidays began, my life will return to the way it was simply refuses to happen. Everyone's moving on with their lives. Lily's rejoining her family, Akira's moving up in her father's business, Hanako's gaining new friends and hobbies, and even Yuko's moving ahead with her university aspirations. Even I'm moving forward, in the end. With the grades I've gotten so far in Yamaku, much less after such a rocky beginning, the path to get into teaching science as a career seems straightforward. I suppose I should at least be happy with that much, but it doesn't really seem to help. I have played Doki Doki, and we have the whole thing on YouTube. I quickly stop my ruminating and turn to face the bubbly voice beside me, putting on the most upbeat expression I can muster. As expected, Shizune stands flanking her. I have a sneaking suspicion they want something from me. Well, Shi-chan, how are we thinking? Since we're just two poor little girls that need help with all the work we've been given just before the holidays begin. Sure, I can help. Huh? I think I broke Misha. Even Shizune raises an eyebrow at her accomplice's stuttering stop in her tracks. You'll help us? I just said I would, wouldn't I? It's hardly like I have anything else better to do. Maybe helping them with their work will help take my mind off the situation. Misha seems genuinely ecstatic with my response, but Shizune's expression is clouded and difficult to read. I find myself quickly averting my eyes from her own, as It almost looks like her face of pity. No doubt. Might just be my imagination. This is hardly the first time I've been in a student council room. Indeed, I've found myself down here often, either to help Lily with class rep work or to sort out one thing or another with the student council itself. Now, though, it's quite a different place. Papers and folders are strewn across. Wow, what a computer, holy crap. It looks positively ancient, and I guess it's been valiantly serving its task and archiving information from years and years. What he's doing. Shizune's expression becomes determined as she signs. It's a worrying look. Everything. Everything you say? What's left on the desk is what needs to be done. It all needs to be digitally recorded. Which is what that laptop's for. ... Shi-chan says she saw you with computers in the library a few days ago. That you seemed really good with them. Good with computers. I can touch type, I guess, but it still seems like an overestimation of my skills. I'll just type you up homework. Shizune was watching me do that? One must know their allies before they can know their enemies, of course. That's pretty wise. For once, it's not very hard to work out who said that. Nonetheless, it doesn't seem worth fighting over. Sitting at a computer doing some typing hardly seems onerous as far as tasks to help Shizune and Misha go. Besides, help protect your mind off things. What things? Misha's face goes blank as she translates for Shizune, though the latter's response is only to glance away towards the window after briefly sliding. Misha's face quickly returns to a smile as she translates back. She was confused, I guess, but Shizune's hard to pin down. I was thinking you may like to get your mind off exams, of course. Either way, we may as well get into it sooner rather than later. I'll go along with you. That's the spirit. And that's the 5th spreadsheet compiled and saved. Time for next month's. After a little bit of fussing about, we all managed to get a little more organized. Shizune's been gripping up those loose sheets and, thankfully, sorting them into a neat pile next to me. Meanwhile, Misha's been handling the manual writing work, her girly pink pen leaving its unmistakable mark on pen and paper. Once I got myself into rhythm, this really wasn't so bad. Shizune and Misha also seem to be in the swing of things, wordlessly communicating as they go about their business with fervor. I periodically glance at the sheet beside the laptop, apparently a list of students' names and matching addresses. As I dutifully enter their data written on it, I don't pay attention to what I'm typing in until I reach about halfway down the page. Hakamichi, Class 3, her family's home is in Saitama. My idle curiosity is ended abruptly as 3 light taps can be heard rapping on the door. Misha quickly skips over to check who it is, tapping Shizune's shoulder on the way to let her companion know what's happening. You're here. With a slight pause to enter Shizune's data in the file along with the others, I look up to check who's at the door. Lily? After giving a cursory nod to Misha in greeting, she perks her head up in her trademark manner. Is that Hisao? She seems pretty darn good at working out my voice from the smallest of phrases nowadays. It's me, hey. The atmosphere feels slightly awkward as she bows. Neither of us knows quite how intimate we should be around each other, given she's leaving in just a matter of hours. Hours? Jeez. This is a fact that, thankfully, neither the oblivious Misha nor the hardworking Shizune pick up on. So, you got work to do as well? Unfortunately, I arrived as soon as I could, but my class held up with a surprise farewell, and I had to get changed. I glanced down on my laptop's clock. It's pretty much the end of lunchtime, so I'm guessing Lily managed to wrangle the last period off as well. I'll take it Shizune's here as well? Of course. And I've been here during all lunchtime as well. That last comment was really not needed. Shizune's baiting Lily into another argument. I can feel it. I'm sorry I can't be as hardworking as you, Shizune. I'll endeavor to hire more lackeys to do my work in future, I assure you. And that, Lily just took the bait, escalating things further. But aren't you the one always outsourcing work to your classmates? The difference is that they choose to help, unlike your tyrannical grip on your own class. Tyranny works. Even if we did things differently, we still got the same results, right? This is school, not a police state. You would have reminded me when we were appointed class mark, I'm afraid. You have to seize power is not as good if it's just handed over to you, but I guess you wouldn't really understand that, right? This is a weird time to have an argument. Lily positively bristles at this. Shizune's two-hit combo forces her into defense. Yet, for all your vaunted power, you can't get one person to help you without forcing him. But Hisao volunteered. He's such a hard worker, he's doing this instead of meaningless socialization, right? Is that so, Hisao? This is bad. I really end up between a rock and a hard place. As much as it pains me to do so, the truth has at least a chance of stopping the argument here and now. It's okay, Lily, they didn't harass me or anything. Lily gives a disappointing grimace, silently radiating her strong feelings of displeasure in my general direction. She can be quite scary when she wants to be, though thankfully that isn't often. Hichan, you make that sound like it's a regular occurrence. It isn't? In the end, it doesn't matter so long as everything's getting done at a good pace. Let's just get work over with so we can go home. Shizune shorts derisively and gets back to marking out the sheets in front of her. Lily sighs and finds her way along the room with her hand following the filing cabinets lined along the wall. This would mark the only time I managed to successfully defuse one of their situations, but the grudging ceasefire built around mutual fear and respect makes this feeling like the Cold War than any real peace. I can't take all the credit though. Lily's leaving has surely affected Shizune to some extent to make her give up so more easily. Moments before getting back to work, I noticed Lily reaching up to grab something from above the filing cabinet. I offered to help, but her height gives her ample ability to get it down safely. Once she sets a strangely shaped device on the desk beside me, I realize what it is, as she takes the odd green covering off and sits down. At first glance, it seems to be an old metallic blue typewriter, but it doesn't take me long to realize it's far from ordinary. It's far fewer keys than expected, and those it has show no lettering printed on them. Only the shadows cast by the tiny braille dots on them give a hint of the thing's purpose. Blind typewriter? Well, you're not far off. It's normally called a Perkins Brailler, but it's typically a typewriter for blind, yes. It presses braille onto the page rather than text, which is why it has fewer keys. It's really neat. She gives a lighthearted grin at my curiosity over it. I have to admit it appeals to my sense of novelty. Without further ado, we each get back to our allotted tasks. The loud clunking of mechanics in Lily's brailler and the tapping of the laptop's old and weary keyboard quickly fill the room. It's a nice atmosphere. Everybody knows what they have to do, and Lily and I get to sit beside each other and exchange the odd word as they work away. Feels nostalgic. It's pleasant, and just slightly stained with the knowledge that our time together is nearing its end. Excuse me, Misha? To properly address her, Misha bounces over from the filing cabinet she's peering into, in spite of Lily's lack of sight. For a moment, I think it's strange, but then realize it's exactly what I do. What's up? Could you ask Shizune where the attendance records for Class 3-2 are? I think they've been moved. Okie. With that, she flitters off to Shizune, who's working on the table behind us. Lily's familiarity with the council room and the efficiency with which she works reminds me that she, Misha, and Shizune all used to work together in student council. Maybe this is a fitting end to her stay in Yamaku, working away just like she used to, surrounded by those she loves and at least liked. Look up, getting taken off guard by Shizune sorting through a drawer rather than Misha. Sure enough, she plucks out a vanilla folder, entirely blank save for the just barely visible bumps in front, and holds it in front of Lily. Lily's hands flit over to check what it is, her fingers feeling out the dots of braille and confirming it's what she asked for. Thank you, Misha. No reply, that is, save for an odd grin, no smile on Shizune's face. A couple of seconds pass before Lily clicks that it isn't Misha behind her, but Shizune. Her momentary look of surprise is replaced by a slight bashful smile. For a few moments, the room is all but still and silent. Eventually, though, Shizune strides back to her workstation and Lily begins typing once again. It only lasted a handful of seconds, but it feels like years of communication were made up for in that one silent exchange. There, finished. I lean my head back and rub my eyes and try to work away their weariness. Staring at that small and rather poor screen has taken its toll. Look, clearly they can use... Good, I can pack up the brailler and put it away while you do that. Thank you, Hisao. Misha, are you and Shizune far from being done? I look around for the two as I replace the cover over the brailler only to see them waiting at the door. I guess they must have been waiting for us. With a minimum of wasted time, we file and pack up everything that remains and join them. Thanks for waiting, you two. We couldn't just take off without you, Hichan. You've been a great help. Shizune nods, approvingly pleased with my efforts. I guess that's the last class representative work done and over with then. That's right. I'll miss you, Lily. I think it's been fun working with you. Thank you, Misha. It's been great working with you too, and Shizune. Shizune thinks for a moment before formulating her response. It's not that she often communicates without thinking, quite the opposite, but this time it's even more considered than usual. Misha looks a little surprised before passing on the message. Shizune says, "You better do your work over there and better than you did over here." Far from taking offense, Lily giggles into her hand. If that's the case, then please tell Shizune to give those still here a little more understanding in the future. Competitive until the last, maybe Shizune and Lily aren't so different after all. Shichan says she'll be checking up to make sure you live up to your end of the promise. Then that's how it'll be. I better be off then. Goodbye, Shizune. Goodbye, Misha. Hisao? Lily takes a hold of my arm in hers. There being no need for a cane when I'm here to guide her. With a nod of farewell to the two, we set off out the door and make our way to the school grounds. As I turn to wave them goodbye, I notice Shizune's gaze lingering on Lily. They may annoy each other, but family bonds aren't easily broken. Got all your papers sorted out? They've all been filled out and handed in. Top of thing as always, aren't you? She gives an earnest smile at the compliment, but it feels as if her happiness is just a veneer over the fact that she's fully aware of how much she's leaving behind. It reminds me of how she was like when I first met her. Always smiling, always that little bit aloof, always that little distance away from everybody. Even now, she still maintains that air around many others, especially those she's not close to. I'd hope that our time together would change that fact. Our pace slows. The two of us coming to a halt in the all but empty school gardens. Hisao, is something? Lily's words are cut short as I turn and wrap my arms around her, putting her tight. I may not usually be given to such impulsive actions, but I just want to be close to her, even if it's the last time I'll be able to. All the other students have retreated to their dormitories and homes, only the ruffling of leaves and the breeze making any sound whatsoever. As I draw back, I can see she has dropped her carefully maintained smile. Her hand hesitates, wanting neither to leave nor to stay on my features. She puts up a brave show, but her slight trembling gives her away. Lily may be able to control herself well, but even she can't hold her composure together now. This is the woman I've come to love, but also the one who, in all too short a time, will leave the country forever. I'm sorry, Hisao. It's okay, you've got your own life to lead after all. We walk up the hallway in the girls' dormitory hand in hand, our emotions by now largely quelled. Nevertheless, our hands grip each other more tightly than ever. Faint, muffled voices can be heard from Lily's room, origins of which aren't difficult to guess. The moment she opens the door, Hanako bursts through and wraps her arms around Lily, taking her very obviously by surprise. Lily! Hanako. I'm gonna miss you, Lily. As expected, she's on the verge of tears. Lily gently rubs Hanako's hair with her hand in response, and then pulls back and gives a warm, reassuring smile. Looking beyond Hanako, Akira can be seen getting up from the side of Lily's bed and scratching her head. Her eyes turn from Lily and Hanako to me, a stilted, weak smile hanging from her face. I try to return a more genuinely happy look, but the result is probably just the same. So everything set? Managed to hold back from killing Shizune? The comment draws a smile from a amused giggle from her sister. Yes, I have everything in order, and yes, I managed not to. Have you packed everything you need? Got the 2 bags right here, but there's still stuff left at the Hakamichi's home. I can pick that up while we're wait here for tomorrow's evening flight, though. Akira gives the 2 large black traveling bags on the floor a hearty pat. She's probably come to help pack and make sure everything was in order in Lily's end before going together with her. Lily, will you be okay over there? I'll be alright, I assure you. I have Akira looking after me, and you know she's reliable. But don't worry, Hanako. I have your phone number after all, and we can stay in touch with Akira's help. I can send you things over the internet as well. Hey, don't use me just because you haven't learned how to use a computer. Hanako and Lily both giggle briefly, the mood lightened ever so little. That goes for you too, Hisao. I promise I'll contact you once I'm in Scotland. I'll be looking forward to it. Her offer may be kind, but we both know this is tantamount to breaking up. Neither of us have any illusions as to how we'll manage a long-distance relationship. With nary a word prompting, the 4 of us began a long, solemn walk to the school gate. This is so sad. The numerous lamps scattering around Yamaku grounds failed to do much more than provide pinpoints of light in otherwise dense darkness. A car parked on a road just outside the school grounds comes into view, its shiny black exterior reflecting the dimly lit lamp of Yamaku. I'll call out to Akira in an effort to alleviate a bit the heavy atmosphere. That's your car? Don't know much about cars, do you? It's a Lancer Evo, solid and speedy. It's not as if her comment to my knowledge is off the mark. I've never really taken interest in them. She gives a small sigh. She's pretty good. Pity I have to part with it tomorrow. Just like the summer house, you guys were the last to visit it before it changed hands. Turning back from my rather faulty attempt at small talk, I glance at Hanako and Lily falling behind us. By rights, Hanako should be leading Lily, but it's rather definitely the other way around as she clings tightly to Lily's arm. It's a depressing sight. So I guess this is it. Indeed. Although the time for everyone to say their farewells is now, nobody really wants to take the first step. It's as if the longer nobody speaks, the better the chances of them simply not leaving. Lily, do you really have to go? I'm sorry, Hanako. I won't be leaving you forever, though. I can still call you. Hisao will still be here as well. Oh, I see. There's no Lily route. We just get back on Hanako route. Gotcha. After spending so long without anyone to call family, it must be excruciating to have to say goodbye to the one person that was close to his mother as anyone could have been in her life. Lily lets out a long, sad breath. All Akira and I can really do is stand by quietly on the sidelines, since the only person that can solve this would be Lily herself. Eventually, Lily pulls her arm away from Hanako's grip and holds both of her shoulders gently, a much more decisive way to address than I've ever seen Lily take with her. Hanako, remember when we first met? When you entered my room for the first time after overhearing my consoling of a friend, you didn't say a single word for the entire night. Even as I poured you tea and talked to you, you sat silently and listened to what I said. It took many quiet meetings like that before you began to open up to me, but as you began, I felt some of the happiest moments I've ever felt. I didn't become your friend because I pitied you, Hanako. I became your friend because I knew you were hiding not from me, but from everyone. Your ambitions, personality, interests, tastes, I don't know any of them, and neither did anyone else. As you showed yourself to me, I began to realize the person that you were, and became sure that our meeting has a very special moment. But Lily cut her words short as she brings her hand to Hanako's head and brushes her bangs to the side, gently pressing her lips to Hanako's forehead. As she pulls back, leaving Hanako all but speechless and her eyes moist, Lily beams a wide smile. I believe you are a very beautiful person, Hanako, and I'm certain you will become a strong and confident woman. You're a very dear friend, someone who I love very much, just like Hisao. I'll never forget you for as long as I live. I may be leaving, but you have your own life here to lead, just as I do. You have your own friends and hobbies and your own hopes after graduation. I want you to devote yourself to them even after I'm not around anymore. That's why I think you'll be okay, because you are your own self with your own life. You proved that to me. Hanako lowers her head in embarrassment, but nods as she does so. I understand. I know I have to say goodbye, and know you have to go your own way. But I thank you, Lily, for everything. Thank you. Hanako, will you be okay? There are a few seconds of silence before the answer comes. I will. Lily smiles, undoubtedly at least partially in relief. That makes me very happy then. Goodbye. Goodbye, Lily. And farewell to you too, Hisao. I'll miss you. She pauses for a moment before walking up to me, her right hand outstretched in front of her, taking hold of my shoulder. Her left hand slowly and daintily reaches towards my face, taking my cheek in her palm. For a while, she simply holds my face, her fingers just slightly moving to take in its contours. Usually her hand would be warm when doing such a thing, but the night air is giving her skin a cool edge. I'm not sure how long we stay like this. Her clouded eyes pointed just below my own, as she wears a wistful, almost distant smile. Eventually, though, I take her cold hand in mine. It's difficult to do so. With a slight sigh, I gently remove her hand from my cheek. I hope you have a long, happy life, Lily, no matter where you might go. Thank you, I'm sure to. She takes a long, trembled breath before turning slightly towards Akira's direction. Akira? Okay. With a nod, she takes Lily's hand and begins to guide her to a car parked outside. They both walk slowly and deliberately as if their moves had been rehearsed in advance. It's strange to feel this now. Watching someone leave Yamaku, the feeling of unease I have now reminds me of the first time I walked through those black wrought iron gates that always looked far too pompous for what they were. As they leave... Oops. Teehee. All of us know full well our lives are irreversibly changing. I'd always told myself I had to take life as it comes, but everything's changing so fast, so suddenly. In the end, Lily is an irreplaceable part of the lives for both Hanako and me. The noise of Akira opening the passenger door for Lily brings me out of my thoughts, her hand waving back as Lily gets in. See you guys, take care. Goodbye, Hanako, goodbye, Hisao. Hanako's hand quickly shoots up, her face brightened by her enthusiastic farewell. Bye, Lily, goodbye. See you, Akira, and goodbye, Lily. The door shuts as we all put in our best happy farewell faces. Akira getting in the car herself and starting up in short measure. Lily's hand can just be seen waving through the tinted windows, both of our hands waved high as well. Just as every other time I've done such things, I can't possibly work out why I or Hanako waved to her, given she'd never seen us doing so, but it doesn't matter. Even after that black shiny car goes down the hill and disappears into the night, we carry on waving and seeing Akira and Lily off, and they're gone. A strange stillness takes over as our hands return to our sides. I don't know what I'd do or how I should feel. In the end, we just stand there, silently staring at where the car disappeared from sight. Goodbye, Lily. All I can do in response to her quiet, mournful goodbye is to place a hand on her shoulder. She looks at me for a few moments before looking back down the hill, secure in the knowledge that I'm still around for her. What we'll do from now on doesn't seem all that uncertain. We have our own ambitions, just as Lily said. Even so, it feels like there's a certain missing part in both of our lives now, something that can never be replaced. Is that... I guess that's not the end? The snap of my mobile phone's closing contrasts with the almost ambient chatter and noise audible even in the hallway outside the library. It's the first day of summer holidays, a time that has perpetually seemed so far away, and yet it's now not only here but also made painfully obvious by the students, or lack thereof, left in the school. Most students have returned home to spend the holidays with relatives by now. The few that have left are mostly chattering between themselves, usually about what they intend to do in the upcoming weeks. It makes you feel the odd one out for taking advantage of the school library being open for the first several days of the holidays. Ostensibly, it's for students to drop off any books they've borrowed and have yet to return, and for those who have their parents pick them up to pass the time until they get whisked away. Thanks to the recent lengthy phone calls with my parents, which have so rudely woken me from sleeping in a beanbag at the back of the library, I'm now in the latter category. Sliding my phone back into my pocket, this time remembering to set it to silent, I go back to my quiet and wholly placid room. It's a nostalgic sight. Just as when Lily first led me to the library, the orange tint of the sunset bathes the room with its light while Hanako sits in a beanbag silently reading and Yuko fusses, just barely visible behind the counter. Hanako especially has been noticeably more quiet than usual since yesterday's happenings, but I can't really blame her. It wasn't just me that depended on that person after all. I quietly walked back to the beanbag near her where I first sat, being doubly careful not to make any unnecessary noise. The soft puff it gives as the bag takes my weight makes Hanako's eyes flick towards me, but only for a second. I get the feeling that Hanako's been quiet only partially out of sadness following Lily's departure. Rather, she seems more thoughtful and measured than I expected, perhaps due to her desire of working out how to deal with Lily's leaving rather than just being depressed over it. It makes me a little proud of her. Hey, Hanako? Yeah? Still going ahead with your idea of traveling? She gives a determined nod. I'll be starting in a day or two. Naomi's decided to come with me too. Quick start. Where are you two headed first? I think we're gonna start by going north, then loop down and go southward. Kaido's gonna be first? She gives another nod, more tentative than the last. The significance of that place is not lost on either of us. Do you know how you're gonna handle the traveling expenses and accommodations? I think it should be okay. Naomi says she has her side worked out too. You know that if you need anything, you can just call, right? I gave you my number before. Any time of the day is fine. She gives a smile, which in itself feels like a small personal victory. I know. Thanks, Isao. Maybe Lily was right. Although I may offer Hanako any help I can possibly give, I feel as if I know she doesn't need it. She really has grown. Hanako's plans for her holiday are in sharp contrast to my simple following of my parents' suggestion to stay with them. Holidays are always made me feel less excited than most, though, so maybe this is just a return to the status quo. Before my heart attack, I always lived so aimlessly about that holidays weren't all that much different from my everyday life anyways. After school, I'd wander around a bit in the city, often hanging out with some friends before making my way home to eat dinner, with usually one of my parents, but rarely both. Their work schedules don't leave much time for them to be home, and they're straight from school, and going there straight from school meant I end up feeling bored. Since coming to Yamaku, though, it feels like I fundamentally changed as a person. The phone call with my parents erased any traces of doubt I might have held on that. While before I had exercised a fairly normal level of independence for a teenager, that being not a whole lot, my parents were more than pleased to hear of my newfound ability in taking care of myself. Laundry, cooking for myself, cleaning, all in addition to other general chores that come from living without parents around. Just little menial things I had to pick up, but with relative ease. When I think about it, I've always depended on them, even if they hadn't been home at the time. I say I never depended on anyone after moving to Yamaku dormitories, but that would be far from the truth. Excuse me. The two of us looked up at the awkwardly fidgeting figure in front of us. It's getting close to closing time. Oh, right. Forgotten the library closes earlier during the holidays. Hanako and I both get up and dust ourselves off, placing our books back on a shelf behind us. The fact that our tastes in reading materials have a fair amount of overlap is useful at times. With a bow to Yuko to apologize for taking so much time, Hanako takes her leave of us. See you tomorrow, Hisao. Bye. And with that, she walks out a large, wooden, aging doors that herald the entrance to the library. She's a quiet person, isn't she? I suppose I should be surprised at a staff member sharing personal opinions like this, but after knowing Yuko for a while, it's largely expected. Our relationship is more personal rather than one of her acting as an authority figure. I think that's just how it is. She's got a lot more confidence in herself these days, though. I don't know her as well as you do, but I think I agree. It's nice to see her talking to people. She's never used to do that before. You know about Lily's leaving, right? She told me herself a few days ago. It must be hard leaving everyone behind like she is. She quickly looks back at me after saying this, probably remembering that I went to her for advice on a relationship between Lily and me before. Are you gonna be okay? That's a difficult question. It's something I'd rather not think about for now, though, given more pressing issues. Something seems off about this whole deal, don't you think? Yuko appears to think for a while, absent-mindedly scrunching her face up in a variety of creative ways as she does so. I don't think I really know her well enough to make that kind of judgment. Sorry I can't be more help. It's fine, I'm just sort of thinking out loud. I give a deep sigh and scratching my head in frustration. Just so much stuff happening at once I have no control over. It feels like I'm being swamped. I think everyone goes through this at times. What's important is to concentrate on what you can do, rather than what you can't do. At least that's how I see it. If I didn't think like that, I don't think I'd be able to manage my life as it is. She says it with a smile and a light tone, but her words are far from any kind of joke. Being pulled between two jobs as she is, just to hopefully make enough money not only to live, but also for university must be exhausting. Perhaps that's why, coming from her, this feels like it's more meaning than if it had come from most others. Guess you have a point there. Thank you for your advice once again, Yuko. She bows deeply and smiles again, before making her way back to the counter where she spends most of her time. The tiny wings of the cupboard crane in my fingers are only just visible in the dim light of my room, just a little of the moonlight being able to peek through the curtains and around the edges. I lie still in my dark bed for a while, idly looking at the little origami bird. Feels like a lot's happened since Lily folded this, but at the same time, it feels like very little has changed. Compared to everyone else, I'm back to square one. I might have a newfound idea of where I want to go in life, but that's hardly something that affects me now. Hanako changed, I know that much. If anything, she just makes me feel like I got no excuse to be like this, considering her previous situation. Lily, though. I turn the bird in my fingers another way, looking at it from yet another angle. When I first met her, she seemed aloof and perhaps somewhat distant. Her actions were always careful, measured, and precise, and her carefully maintained composure always gave the appearance of unerring confidence and serenity. When I first, in the time she's become less formal, just a bit, but enough. It felt good to see her lowering her ambitions around me and opening up even just a little. Of her own accord, it felt as if I was seeing her real self slowly becoming more vibrant and visible. Now, though, I'm beginning to have doubts. Perhaps they're to be expected after what is effectively the two of us breaking up. They don't feel new or strange, though, but rather like an old book being found and dusted off. I soon realized after meeting Lily that she saw me as she did Hanako, someone who needed help and care. At first, I simply thought we'd be fine as friends, helping each other through our limited time together in school. But when I began to treasure our moments together more and more, from our quiet walks to our talking over lunch, the good sides of her personality became ever more obvious and ever more likable. The absence caused by Lily's trip to Scotland to visit her long-distant family and sick aunt only made me realize how much I liked just being around her, and I thought that she felt the same way. For her, though, maybe that wasn't everything into our relationship. Even after she returned to Japan, that just meant she had lost her family once again after meeting him for such a brief time. She lived so much of her life without her family around, not to mention with Akira working long hours, that she had little choice but to be like that. I thought her sense of independence to be a good and admirable trait. It was in stark difference to my reliance on my parents before my heart attack, as reluctant as I maybe admitted. However, it also meant that she never let people get too close to her. She lost her family due to her blindness. Next, went to a different school from anybody she knew because of it, worked all the harder to make sure she didn't end up a burden on her sister and those around her. And now, Akira's going to Ireland, just like the family she thought she lost. She never told me of her plans, as conflicted as she was about them. Lily didn't want to be a burden on anyone, including me. I'm an idiot. I never questioned it, never tried to be there and asked when she needed me to. I just set up my life and expected to stay that way forever, with the two of us having a nice long relationship where we push forward towards our future together. A small pit of frustration and anger at myself wells up in my chest. I let everything happen, never even trying to help Lily. Just her being there was enough. I couldn't keep going on if that were true. But that could never been enough. It was a childlike dependence on someone without any attempt to understand or help their situation. Thanks to that, I lost Lily. I lost the one person I loved most because I wasn't there with her when she needed me. Lily route Midori. Midori's not ready for all the feelings. With an increasingly angry feeling washing over me, I turn over and set the crane back on the desk next to my clock, the place where I'd lived since that day when she folded it for me. Since that day when she herself said that my burdens needn't be my own. The obnoxious, bright red numerals of my alarm clock shine through the darkness of my room into my tired eyes. 10 o'clock. Curfew. I wonder. Kira mentioned they'd be leaving this evening. I have no idea exactly when their flight is, but that means there's a chance, however small, they might not have already left. Adrenaline starts to move through my body as I sit up on bed, my eyes suddenly wide with possibility. There's no guarantee they haven't left. Indeed, it's likely they already have, but there's also a chance they haven't. Just this once. I stand up and rush over to my cabinet, throwing out some clothes as fast as I can and sliding into them in quick succession. Each second that goes by is a second I can't regain, a second that may mean the difference between catching them and losing them forever. Even if I fail, I have to try. I can't let her leave everything behind without even trying to stop her, without just this once being there for her. With the last of my clothes slipped on, I hastily grabbed the phone off my desk. Luckily, the number for a local taxi company is still in my call history. A gruff, unenthusiastic voice announces the name of the company while I pace around the room. It takes some effort to slow down my voice and keep it clear over the phone. I mean, I'll be honest, this is like really late. This is like a really late chase after the girl. But whatever. The chilly night air sweeps against me as I open the dormitory door, but nevertheless, I keep my brisk speed as I half jog, half run out of the school gates. And then I run too fast and have a heart attack and I die right there in the cab. It may not be curfew just yet, but it's precariously close. If there were a guard around, they'd no doubt have some questions for me, but it looks like I managed to come out just before they arrived. My pace picks up as I make my way through the school gardens. Their nighttime allure all but lost when I begin to run to the school gate. The lamps of the courtyard, dim as they are, provide just enough illumination to light the way and prevent me from tripping over. The buildings themselves take on a rustic, almost antique-looking edge as I glance at them. Looking back, it seems strange they once appeared so dark and looming to me. Now they just look to be somewhat anachronistic school buildings, the same as any other bars their age. Same as any others bar their age. Leaving the gates behind, I pull up to a stop just before the taxi. Parked just as Akira's car had been, its gaudy and brightly lit sign looks out of place in a quiet country backdrop. I impatiently squeeze myself through the door, giving the driver the address for where the two should hopefully be staying. By the time the taxi pulls up after its trip at maddeningly casual speed, it's well and truly deep into the night. The house is truly enormous, its sheer size much larger than I expected and ominously still. Fearing the worst, I ask the driver to stay just in case my efforts are for naught. A single press on the fancy intercom system outside the gate produces a short, electronic melody on the other side's otherwise silent road. It's not long before a somewhat deep, gruff voice can be heard on it. This is the Hakamichi residence. Please state your name and why you're bothering us this late. I press on despite inwardly wincing at the reasonable annoyance audible in his voice. It's a sound I was hoping to meet Lily or Akira if they're still here. Surprisingly, I managed to summon quite some energy in my voice, enough to make the other side of the intercom silent. A few seconds pass, but just before I press the button again and ask what's going on, a light turns on outside the front door. I strain my eyes to try and make out who's coming through. But as he comes past a large parked car with fishing rods sticking out of their back, his identity becomes clear. His face is typically placid and emotionless as he saunters up to the gate. He's still childlike in his mannerisms despite his demeanor. With a press of a few buttons from behind the fence, the gate slowly opens. What are you doing here? I think this is the most emotion I've ever seen from his voice. Not that it would be hard to reach that mark. Akira told me that she and Lily would be staying here before they left for their flight. I need to talk to Lily just one last time. I failed. I was too late. The one time when I actually needed to act quickly. It's possible. He's a bit taken aback from my fervor, but I can't help at this point. They left not long ago, only a few minutes before you arrived, in fact. If you go straight to the airport, you might be able to. I dart back towards the waiting cab, grabbing what little money is left in my pocket as I go. Thanks! With that, I take a seat in short order bark out the destination. My chest beats wild as I tear down the street, my body twisting this way and that to slip between the pedestrians walking back and forth beside me. With the road solidly blocked by taxis, the other cars dropping off passengers and picking up others in the time they had to wait, we ended up having to stop almost a block away. But that's in the past now. What matters is reaching Lily. One foot hits the ground, the other quickly following without the slightest thought, as if my legs had taken on a life of their own, and all my mind can do is concentrate on the view ahead of me. Just one glimpse of that long hair of hers, that long yellow hair that could be the same color of the wheat that stretched as far as the eyes could see. In the end, I depended on Lily just as Hanako did. Even after we started going out, it still doesn't feel like she ever really let herself depend on me. Except for one moment, that one moment we held each other so tightly on that yellow bright field. At that time, she must have feared losing me just as she did everyone else. That's why just this once. The night air wraps around me, draining every last remnant of warmth out of my body, to the extent that it feels more like midwinter than a summer night. My fingers, my hands, my feet, all feeling increasingly cold. The sound of the passing crowds is reduced to no more than a background hum, while the sounds of my shoes hitting the pavement echo loudly, every step surging towards the person I have to catch. Forced by my chest tightening in response to the cold night, I rest an arm over it to try and settle it down. When the airport comes into view, though, I realize this feeling is one I felt before. No, not now. I take a gulp and soldier on regardless, pushing my body as far as it'll go. Sweat pours off me as I hurtle forward, my shoulder hitting someone's side and my mind suddenly flooding with emotions and memories. I continue on without apology. I have to keep moving now, but if I stopped, I'm not sure I could begin anew, and even if I could, it would all be for naught if I'm not in time. I hit another person, then another, offering little resistance to getting bounced about. My feet feel numb. My arms are losing feeling. My chest forces me to hunch over, awkwardly tightening ever more. That afternoon in the snow, that time my life irreversibly changed. The images of Iwanako and that damned letter flashed over and over my mind. The first love I lost thanks to my condition. Can't let that happen again. I don't care what happens to me anymore. I just need to see her one last time. There. A sliver of yellow and white comes into view, some distance down the road. Her figure silhouetted by the lights emanating from the airport entrance. Lily! Lily, stop, please! Come on, Lily, I know your hearing's far better than normal. My view suddenly spins out of control and ends up on the ground, my body haphazardly sprawled after hitting someone and stumbling over. Before I can assess the damage, an unbelievable pain ignites in my body. All my thoughts are blank as I curl up and frantically clutch at my chest. Are you okay? That was a really bad fall. Any sharp knock would do me in. Any overexertion, I thought I could overcome my limits this once. Something's wrong with him. What's the matter? The voices of those gathered around me are gradually replaced by a loud ringing in my ears. By now, I'm unable to move my head. My eyes turn upward to see the mute moving of their lips. And we die. Even though I clutch my chest, I realize I can't feel my fingers anymore, nor my feet. It feels like my entire body is shutting down, starting from my extremities. With one last effort, I turn my head down the road towards the airport entrance that's casting its light over me. Lily is there behind the crowd. Her head is tilted, but only just slightly. I can feel my vision dimming as I try to yell out, but nothing emerges from my mouth despite my best efforts. Slowly but surely, my vision begins to black out the scene before me. That's how it feels. I failed. I was so close, so very close, but at the very last moment, my condition seized my chance at a new life and dragged me back. Now I'm gonna die. Sprawled out just meters from an airport, with a crowd of babbling people surrounding me, and with Lily leaving for Scotland just a few distance ahead. Lily. That last word extinguishes the last of my energy. The world falls into a deep, inescapable blackness as every muscle in my body shuts down. Sorry, Lily. I was too late. Man, we are still going. So, what's it like after we're dead now? Do we bring Lily back because she found us collapsed on the floor before she leaves? Because that would be not pleasant. What's going on? As I slowly open my eyes, a bright white light assaults my retinas. For minutes, I lay where I am, mindlessly staring ahead while my scattered thoughts coalesce in my slowly waking mind. Slowly but surely, the white begins to come into focus as a bare expanse begins to be drawn across my field of vision. It's only when the light fixture comes into view that my mind clicks that this is the ceiling above me. Slowly levering myself up, I silently absorb through all my senses the details of the room I'm in. The smell and taste of strong bleach hang in the air, lending the impression of a place just slightly too clean to be natural. Inoffensive, pale, peach-colored walls, all perfectly painted without a crack, stain, or imperfection. A single framed painting hangs on the wall, perfectly straightened. Like the walls, is as boring and inoffensive as can be. My attention is grabbed by the translucent curtain waving across my vision, my eyes following it as the window's open window that covers. When I move my right arm to try to lift myself up and look at it, I feel the catheter dig in uncomfortably. It's only now, too, that I notice the cannula tubes winding around my cheeks and into my nose. After some fidgeting, I settle for just looking around the corner of the window. Behind the thick leaves of several large trees, I can see the greenery below, backing out into a field, a customary island of green on the outskirts of the city. Judging by the sun outside, it's noon, of which day, though I'm not sure. I'm in a hospital once again. I let out a long, tired breath as I try to collect my scattered thoughts, my mind seemingly cast in a dozen directions all at once, with its main emotions running through me. After slowly laying back down, I decide to start on the beginning, why I'm here. I cast my mind back, but I can't work out a smooth recollection of what happened. The events of last night, whichever night it was, came back as more of a series of snapshots than any cohesive memory. Laying in my bed, Hideaki, running down the streets, falling, Lily. The silence of the private room suddenly feels overwhelming. So that's it. I had my chance to correct my mistake and I blew it. Whether I was at fault for neglecting my medication and disregarding to pace myself, or my body was for giving out so soon, it doesn't matter now. All that matters is, once again, I'm alone. The pastel blue pillow yields with little resistance as I let myself fall back into the bed, its starchy case along with the starchy sheets providing little comfort. Compared to the darkness of last night's events, the bright light of the room around me is striking. All it does, though, is emphasize how otherworldly places like this are. Arrhythmia. A strange word, a foreign alien one that you don't want to be in the same room with. A rare condition that causes the heart to act erratically and occasionally beat way too fast. It was a miracle that you're going to be able to go on so long without anything happening, they said. And then it did. My condition had taken away everything. My old school. I became cynical and embittered, distant and subdued. In my defense, no person could avoid that after such a thing happening to them, but nonetheless, I left the hospital a very different, changed person. Things changed. I made new friends. In Hanako, she's named Misha. And Emmy. I found a new sense of home in my dormitory, a new interest in science and the world around me, and I found direction in my life that I'd never felt before. I also discovered other things, like Emmy. The sense of isolation in Yamaku and its surroundings was not entirely unwelcome. The quiet giving of peace of mind I might not have found elsewhere, but it gave the area a feeling of being pushed out of the way, of being kept out of sight. People in the streets would sometimes glance awkwardly or quickly turn their heads as they realized they were staring. Even if my condition wasn't visible, my uniform was. Even if it weren't, I was still different. I took 17 pills a day, morning, midday, and night. My scar, though, hidden behind clothing was still a permanent mark of my condition. Most of all, there was a very real possibility of death. A bad fall, an absent-minded hard hit in the back, a short sprint taken too far. Anything could set my heart off, and several times I teetered on the edge of the abyss, even with all the care I took of myself. I could live with that, because there was one thing I found after entering Yamaku, which was once again snatched before my eyes. It's only now I realize how delicate my newfound senses of happiness was. Everything depended on her, the linchpin of my life since I entered Yamaku as a sullen, confused, and aimless transfer student. Lily was the one person I could depend above all others, and who reciprocated that love I felt for her, but I failed her and only realized it all too late. I thought I could just set my life up and continue that way forever, but the real world doesn't work like that. The surroundings I'm in now are all too familiar. It's as if Yamaku was all but a dream. Maybe that's why I felt so tired. It felt almost as if I lived the entire last few months of my life in the space of minutes. The way my eyelids closes, my physical and mental exhaustion letting me offer no resistance. Unintelligible mumbling from the other side of the bed stirs me from my sleep, bidding farewell to the doctor. As I open my eyes, I notice the door closing in my peripheral vision. The doctor stands reading some notes off a clipboard held in his hand, carefully looking over the pages. After consulting his obviously very important documents, he looks up and notices my gaze. It's now that I notice something slightly odd about his expression and general disposition. "I see you're awake, Mr. Nakai." His quick glance to my bed to verify my name shows that his documents obviously didn't have it written on them. "I must admit, it's a bit unfortunate your parents visited just earlier while you were asleep. I could notify them you're awake now if you like." "That'd be good." I give a somewhat dazed reply, most likely the one he'd expect, before really thinking about what I'm saying. "Not a problem. If you have any questions you'd like to ask, I'll be happy to answer them. Unless you prefer to rest, the anesthetic's just still going to be affecting you for a bit, I'm afraid." Well, I felt so strange the first time I woke up. I slowly shake my head, not wanting to dislodge any pipes or cause myself any more discomfort than necessary. The doctor politely puts down his clipboard in response. "What happened?" "Put simply, you unfortunately had another heart attack. While not as severe as your first, you were very lucky it occurred so close to a hospital. After being stabilized, you were taken to an operating room. What followed was keyhole surgery in order to insert a temporary pacemaker. All in all, the incident happened 2 days ago, with emergency treatment being carried out very soon afterwards. Since then, we've kept you under close observation while you were asleep." "Any lasting problems?" "Compared to the procedure carried out for your first heart attack, this was relatively minor. While you still have to undergo surgery once more in a few days, time to remove the pacemaker, I assume there are no complications. There should be no lasting implications." He continues talking, subject shifting to a repetition of facts about arrhythmia and any medical medications I already know for the most part. I start to nod in faint interest while my mind drifts. I begin to think about how perfectly hung the inoffensive painting on the wall behind his shoulder is, how neat and sterile their surroundings are, even including the doctor himself. "If my mumbling bores you, you're quite welcome to say so, Mr. Nakai. Lord knows I lose track of myself sometimes." He gives a short chuckle as his self-depreciating joke, as I grimace awkwardly, having been rather badly caught out. The doctor's chuckle sounds different from that of the nurse at Yamaku, though. Come to think of it, as I ponder why, I realize why the man in front of me feels just a bit off. His smile is neat and sterile. He delivers a little joke perfectly with a customary inoffensive chuckle. It's like talking with a man whose name is neatly printed on the name tag printed on a lab coat. I'm merely interacting with an actor reading off a pre-rehearsed script, every action having been choreographed beforehand. I suppose he has to be this way, though, being a doctor. He has to keep his neat and sterile smile when chatting to the girl with cancer slowly spreading through her body, when reassuring the woman who surely died from childbirth, and with every other terminally and critically ill patient. That little bit of distance, that little bit of aloofness. It makes me wonder if I've been too harsh, especially considering it's a disposition far from being adopted only by people in his profession. After all, the one I loved kept that same distance from others herself. Looking up to the doctor again, I realize I've been in thought with my head bowed for some time. I understand you must be tired, you've been through a lot. As I mentioned before, the anesthetic would still be affecting you. If you don't mind, I'll let you get some rest and tell your parents we've woken up for you. Thank you. He gives a curt nod, picking up his clipboard and making his way to the large white door to the corner of the room, closing it behind him with a thud. I'm alone again. Lily's gone, Akira's gone, Hanako's traveling. My parents have already left. 4 pale peach walls, 1 white ceiling, and a single open window to look out towards the window outside. It's hard to think the future with its past is crowded around you, claustrophobic in its neat, sterile, starchy, bleach-smelling grip. Lost for what to do or focus on, I content myself with sleeping the time away as if this was all just another dream like Yamaku had been. White. A sterile, clean white for a sterile, clean room. My eyes open. I simply stared at the ceiling for some time. It's about as interesting as a television would be, mounted on its metal rack hanging off the ceiling ahead of the bed. Indeed, the television saw its entire use during the time my parents were here. Left on quietly as they waited for me to wake, it was about as banal as it had been the first time I ended up in the hospital. Earlier today, an attending nurse had offered to turn off the EKG speakers. I simply refused because the sound is so entirely normal to me by now. It's almost comforting in a way. The metronome-like regularity gives it at least some feeling that time is moving, even in a place such as this. After some time of listening to its beeping when I fully awaken, I realize there's another sound in the room. Concentrating on all my lack of feelings, a task made rather easy by the lack of distractions, a tiny, tinny melody can be heard. Light and quiet, the music sounds almost fragile as if dwarfed by the EKG's pulses. Tilting my head just slightly to the side in an effort to see the source of the melody without dislodging any of the sensors and pipes stuck into me, I notice a little wooden box sitting on a nightstand next to my bed. My mouth opens just slightly while I slightly watch the tiny little metal drum slowly rotate inside, the little bumps on its surface gradually moving in and out of sight. It's the one I gave. The creaking of the door breaks me out of my reverie, my head and heart remaining still as my eyes turn to see who comes through. Long, tan skirt, peach off-the-shoulder sweater, pale, almost porcelain skin, blue clouded eyes, and long yellow hair. All I can do is stare as Lily slowly walks into the room. Her fingers slightly running over the wall for orientation, and mine comes to a shuddering halt. Lily? She stops mid-stride, her entire body tensing. Hisao, was that you? Her voice is quiet and pensive, echoing her expression. I thought you were... Lily takes one tentative step forward, then another, as if she were holding herself back. Her control over her composure is for naught, though. She finally rushes over to where I lay for the last of her resistance falls. I'm taken slightly aback when she grabs hold of me, hunching over as tears begin to fall from her cheeks. Since only minutes ago I thought she was on the other side of the world. After a moment of hesitation, I rest my hand on her soft shoulder. Hisao. Lily's body trembles as her tears blot the pale green sheets of her emotions flooding through her carefully maintained exterior. With her face now closer and made easier to see with her pale skin being lit by the sunlight through the window, I notice her cheeks being redder than they should be. It's okay, Lily. You don't need to. She rights herself quickly, her crying forcibly stifled with both sadness and stubbornness remaining in her moistened eyes. Her prideful nature, always having been something to contend with, takes me off guard. Stop telling me not to worry about you, Hisao. Just this once, let me cry. I'm caught speechless. She waits for a response, but her composure breaks again after a handful of seconds. I swallow hard to try and settle my own emotions while she weeps into my bed, a strange mixture of relief and depression welling up. Lily's here. She's really here. If I couldn't feel her skin under my hand, I'd hardly believe my own eyes. My efforts weren't for nothing. My body's attempt to take away everything that was important to me once again has been foiled. But now I don't feel as happy as I thought I would. Seeing her here crying like this over me, this is the one thing I wanted to avoid since coming to love her. No, ever since leaving the hospital. It's my fault I'm here, Lily. I shouldn't have tried to push myself so far. After months of keeping myself together so nobody worry over me, I went and did something like this. I guess I'm pretty dumb. With a couple of sniffs and a long breath, Lily managed to pull herself together and calm down a little. Despite her red cheeks, moist eyes, and the lines of her tears still visible, she delicately wears that weak smile she seems to so often give. You needn't blame yourself. I heard later that happened as you were running down the road after me, right? She wipes her eyes with the back of her hand, returning more to her old self as the rush of emotions wears off. Why'd you run after me, Hisao? I moved to respond, but noticed her face tightening. Even after I said goodbye and I left Yamaku, she takes a moment to steady herself, her emotions almost bubbling up once again. I just want to say I'm sorry. Sorry? For times I wasn't there when you needed me. Until now I thought just being there would be enough. I only need you by my side to make any day feel better. Even if my body may be like this, I want to help you, Lily, to be there when you need someone. But like the whole collapsing on the floor does put a damper on that. But you always were there, Isao. Why'd you want to go to Scotland? Because her family's there. I told you before, Akira was going. And because of my family's summons to their home. Why didn't you say you wanted to go? I'm not stubborn often, but this one time I think I need to be. I want you to stay here, Lily. I want you to stay where everyone you know lives and where all your dreams and ambitions were made. If you choose to say I'll never leave your side, I won't let you lose another person. When I had my heart attack, I was snatched away from everyone and everywhere I knew. You showed me a new life after I came to Yamaku. I'd lost my past, but you showed me a future. It's true I haven't always been there for you. I'm unreliable sometimes. I lied and I thought I'd come to understand you when I hadn't even understood myself. Be that as it may, I want to give you a future as well. I want to be there for you, to share both your burdens and your happiness, just like I promised back in Hokkaido. I want you to trust me. I know I had problems coming to put my trust in you after losing so many people I'd known after my heart attack. That's how I know that being unable to trust others can feel awful. That's why I can't watch you just throw everything away like this. I never want you to go through what I did. I would do anything to stop that. We've done Emmy and Hanako, and now we're doing Lily as our last girl. You can be quite steadfast when you want to be, can't you? As I said, it isn't often. My weak smile drops, though, as the IV in my arm digs in a little. It's a harsh reminder of my tether to my condition. Lily's face tenses as I let out a small gasp of pain, immediately making me wish I'd stifled it better. All I can do is sigh in defeat. I try not to let anyone worry over me for the entire time since I left the hospital, but I can't even stop the one person I love most from crying over me. Even if I might finally be able to put my feelings into words, I feel pretty useless with a body like this. Every time I try to reach towards something, it's just snatched away. And even now, things only turned out for the better due to luck. I guess that's something else I should apologize for. All I can ever do is make you worry. Even now, there is very little chance I live anywhere near a full life. The feeling of Lily's soft, warm hands moving over my cheek makes me lift my head, her smile gentle and warm as she touches me. I think that's something very natural for you to say. You're always so sincere and self-conscious. You're also reserved and mild-mannered and patient to a fault with Hanako, yet curious about everyone and everything else. When I said I missed you while I was with my family, I wasn't lying or exaggerating. The thought of you was never far from my mind and helped me through that time. That's why I was so confused at what to do when my family summoned me. Even though I thought I had made my decision, you tried your hardest to challenge me about it. I didn't confess to you out of pity or believing you were somehow different from what you are. I confessed because I never want to lose you, and I want you to always be a part of my life no matter what that might change. You're a very beautiful person, Isao. Your heart changes none of that, so please don't apologize for yourself anymore. Not really sure what this newly born feeling inside of me is, but it pales into significance as I wordlessly gaze at Lily's smiling face, warm and gentle as it's always been. It's only as her thumb crosses my cheek, wiping away a single drop of moisture, that I realize that this is all I've ever wanted. For what feels like the first time, I gave an earnest, wide smile. As Lily feels it against her palm, she returns the gesture. More time passes before either of us say a word, neither of us needing a speech to communicate our feelings towards each other. I know I can't promise you'll always be around, or that we'll all be together forever. With some difficulty, I slowly lift my hand, placing it on her pale shoulder. But I think I can at least take you to next year's Tanabata festival to make up for making you miss this year's. Lily's expression is one of surprise, so I can't say I blame her. You remember that? It's a pretty good memory sometimes. I have got a pretty good memory sometimes. She raises her head a little and takes my hand from my cheek, giving a small, amused giggle. I smile absent-mindedly at how earnest it is. Lily's like, yeah, but I'm still gonna go back to Scotland. Like, the ticket was expensive, I had to reschedule it. I'm still going, sorry dude. Still smiling warmly, she collects herself and stands upright with a small hand resting on my chest. It feels like I'm seeing her for the first time, the sun in the window glowing behind her just as that did when I first walked in that room where she was drinking tea. Very well then, shall we make it a promise between the both of us to go to next year's Tanabata together? Even if she can't see me doing so, I nod approvingly. I promise. I promise. And Lily's like, I'm gonna go. I'll be back. I'll be back in a year, okay? Off to Scotland. Was that the good ending? Was that the good ending for Lily? Man. Emmy's still the best. Emmy is still best girl. It was good ending? Nice. So we got 3 out of 3 good endings. Yeah, we got good ending with Emmy, Lily, and Hanako. God, I'm so good at dating games. Date the shit out of these girls, man. Like, I think that's such a cliche. I think that's such a cliche moment. No, she never got in the flight. Akira, Lily, and I silently sit in the grassy embankment high above the local town, the breeze gently blowing through the cloudless sky. We may be just a few minutes' walk from the town and a hill just outside its limits, but the view is entirely unexpected. Lily sits beside me, her eyes closed as a gentle breeze flows through her hair. Nah, we're probably not doing Shizune. I think 3 run-throughs on Katawa Shoujo are enough. This is a nice area. Yeah, I never knew a place like this was anywhere near Yamaku. And I had to be the one to find it, of course. Akira's grin is genuine, but her tone is slightly different from her usual carefree nature. It's good that you're out of the hospital, though, Hisao. Nobody's more glad than I am. I can't stand hospitals. So, you two going back to school tomorrow? Yep. Akira chuckles in amusement before looking back out to the town below, the trees between the buildings swaying in the wind. Pity we couldn't go up north for the summer holidays, or get to Tanabata. I wouldn't worry, there's always next time. You'll be graduating before next summer vacation, won't you? Yeah, there'll still be college after that, mind. Going to the same one? Likely, both have high enough scores to meet the entry requirements. You sound so sure. Don't worry, you're better than I am in most subjects. I guess we'll work it out in due time. That's the way. Just enjoy yourselves in Yamaku while you're there. Lily gives a sad sigh at the distinction made between Akira and the two of us. You really need to go back to Scotland? Yeah, the folks are already out my blood as it is. You weren't meant to stay this long? She gives a trademark wide grin. Setting my boyfriend up with a passport took some time. You taking him with you? Just for a while at first. He's a surprisingly worldly guy, so I think he'll do just fine. Akira gives an amused snort. If our father had his way, I have gone a long while ago. I couldn't just pass up an excuse to stay with my favorite little sister a little while longer, though. She leans right and gives Lily a tight, playful hug, cheering her up considerably. It's nice to be with you one last time, though. For what it's worth, I'm on the same boat. Thanks, you two. I'll try and come back sometime, don't worry. It's a shame that the business keeps you so busy. The place won't run itself, I'm afraid, and I think it's gonna just be the same over there. Considering that, I better get going. Have fun over there, Akira. Will do. With a slight grunt, she lifts herself from her hands and stands up, dusting herself off as she does so. Better be off, the plane won't wait for me after all. She has a certain unusual wistfulness in the tone of her voice, her eyes firmly planted on her sister. I'll be okay, Akira. Yeah, I know. Come on, isn't that bad? You'll be seeing us again soon. It's strange to have Lily reassuring a doubting Akira for once. She really has changed. Goodbye, Akira. Bye. For a second, the dark-clad figure looks down at the both of us, smiling widely, perhaps more widely than I've ever seen her do before. She lets a long, slightly wavering breath to steady herself before leaving, but eventually slips her hand in her pockets and turns on her heel. With that, she walks away, one hand held in the air as she goes. See you later, you two. A jazz tune with no beat, melody or direction to the very end. After a few moments of sitting silently, Lily and I pick ourselves up and dust ourselves off. Turning towards her with a broad smile, I hold out my hand. Shall we be off then? She takes my hand in hers, with a gentle nod and a smile as beautiful and warm as ever. Indeed we shall, Hisao. As we set off towards the school, that wonderful smile engraves itself onto my memory, that wonderful smile we both share. Our pasts may be scattered at times, overshadowed by sadness, but they're also an irrevocable part of our lives and personalities. Even if I could change a single thing, I wouldn't, because my past is what led me here. That's why, even with all that's happened to us before and all that may well befall us, together we'll keep walking forwards towards our future, our future. Okay. Still ranking. Emmy is best. Best girl Emmy. Lily gets to be second, although like really cliche. Speaking of Lily, Midori with Lily Pichu. Like Emmy just feels Lily, I don't like that cliche moment of stopping at the airport. Emmy's best girl because you're best girl. Midori, I know you well enough, but I'm pretty sure you have 2 legs. We did not get manly picnic, but fuck Kenji. I don't need no manly picnic anyways. I just don't like that super cliche, like, catch them right before they leave for the airport moment. Is Manly Picnic a bad end, or like what happens? Is Manly Picnic like if you just like mess up with all the girls, so you're stuck with Kenji as an end? Ah, Katawa Shoujo. I love you forever, Katawa Shoujo. Emmy is best. Then Lily, then Hanako, I think. How does she know he collapsed? Well, because she's got really good hearing. And while he's collapsing, people are like, oh shit, this kid's dying of a heart attack. And Lily's like, heart attack? I know who dies often to heart attacks. My boyfriend. Yeah. She's got good hearing, and her head turned while people are like, oh fuck, this kid's gonna die. This kid's gonna die. This kid's gonna die. This kid's dying. Someone call an ambulance. This kid's dying right now. Well, it's like, yeah, I know people who like to die when they walk around. My BFF. Boyfriend failure. I really was hoping for him to stop her, like, anytime before the airport. Like, I really was hoping for a stop, like, whenever it was the 4 of them at the school gates. I think I would have liked it better there. Or catching her at the house. I don't know. I just don't like that tiny bit. It's just like a small nitpick. Like, I don't like the cliche, like, stop at the airport and like almost missed her, but then he didn't miss her after all. But Emmy, we did get a lot more emotion at the end for Hanako. I mean, for Lily. Hanako route. I think, of the 3, felt the least satisfying. Yeah. I'm gonna say Hanako felt the least satisfying of the 3. Still pretty good, but the least satisfying. But Emmy's still best. Woo! We are done with Katawa Shoujo, guys. Hey. God, look at us, like, collapsing on the floor. How selfish of us. Costing people money and worry about us dying on the streets. New visual novel time. The next game we're gonna play, I think it's gonna be They Are Billions, because that is a game that, like, a lot of people are getting into right now. And I have it installed, so I do think tomorrow's game is gonna be They Are Billions. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, my name's Zenigami. Thank you so much for watching. Katawa Shoujo is a great game. And y'all stay beautiful.